No. Again?
Hey guys, it's Hot Dogs here, and today I'll be reviewing a recent game that you might not have heard of called Post Trauma. Let me know in the comments below if you have heard of this game and or if you agree with my thoughts and review in general. Post Trauma is a third-person survival horror game with a fixed camera and 3D environment akin to one of the original Silent Hill games. It is the debut game by Spanish developers Red Soul Games, so that's pretty cool. It's their first game ever, and it was published by the indie publishing giant Raw Fury, who will also be publishing another game this year called Routine, which I hope to do a review on when it comes out then as well. So before we get this review started, I want you all to keep in mind that this was $15 at launch price. So we're going to be grading it comparatively. We're not going to say it sucks because it doesn't have $1 million special effects like Resident Evil. Post Trauma's initial sequence, which you saw in the beginning of this video, does an excellent job of leaving you feeling shocked and confused. Very shortly after, we meet our protagonist, Roman, who we will be playing most of the game as. We take control of him on a stopped subway train with no further explanation. This is where the main gameplay element flaunts itself. Where many survival horror games have you fight monsters and solve puzzles intermittently, Post Trauma focuses mainly on solving puzzles through exploration and riddles. Now there's definitely your fair share of combat, and we'll get to that, but nowhere near as much as a game like Resident Evil or Dead Space. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing in my opinion, and I say that because the puzzles are immensely satisfying to solve. They are mostly well done and intuitive in the way the clues are presented to you, such as this puzzle on the train in the beginning. There are several maps that all have different symbols and numbers on them, and some maps are missing the information from the other maps, so you kind of have to put them all together to find the code to the door. Once I did solve a puzzle, I felt satisfied and wanted to play more. The difficulty is a good challenge, but not too hard, and I went through the whole game without researching a solution until I reached the final puzzle. The final puzzle, in my opinion, is way too complicated, and it seems many other reviewers online shared the same sentiment. Even after looking up the solution, I still had no idea how it worked, and it seemed that everyone online also didn't know how it worked, and they just kind of got to the solution by trial and error as no one really had an explanation. Aside from this minor flaw, the puzzles are overall engaging and a joy to solve. I'm sure many of you are wondering, what is the combat like? And I will start this section off by saying that the combat wasn't my main draw to the game, and I don't think it should be yours either, but it still is one of the main mechanics I look for in a survival horror game. You start off with a crowbar that you eventually find, and the mechanics are surprisingly simple. You can lock on to an enemy to ensure that your melee attack will hit if you're in range, and you just keep hitting the attack button and dodging when the enemy is about to attack you back. You eventually find a couple more melee weapons as well as a pistol and a shotgun. And the pistol I found is very weak and only good for chipping away at an enemy's health or stunning them for a few seconds. The shotgun is very powerful, and the game lets you know by making the recovery from the recoil a few seconds long, but the exchange for this recovery time is that it kills most of the common enemies in one shot. All in all, the combat is mostly shallow and very repetitive for the very little that we do get to take part in. The enemies are easy to dodge from their attacks and pose little threat to you, at least on normal difficulty. There are also a few boss fights that are pretty easy as long as you have enough shotgun ammo. Even if you don't, their attacks are telegraphed enough that you can easily dodge them, then get a quick melee attack off, run away, rinse repeat until they are dead. The last boss fight, if you can even call it that, has very little combat aside from the fodder enemies that you can literally just run past, because all you have to do is solve a simple puzzle. And that was that. That was the final boss fight of the game, a simple puzzle. As the title of the game suggests, the story revolves around exploring Roman's traumas that present themselves as physical
Officer
manifestations in his mind.
Mitch?
To be honest, I wasn't able to follow the story that
What
well.
is this, guys?
A lot of it comes from the environment and different allegories and audio clips, but I wasn't able to put it together.
Isn't real.
Supposedly it's supposed to be interpretive and left up to you to infer what happened in the gaps. But unfortunately, since the story is lost so easily on me, I can't give it that high of a rating. Now, you might have a different experience than me. You might be playing this game or other games specifically for the story alone, and I am no means saying that it is a terrible story, just that I didn't really grasp it, so I can't really comment too much about it. For what this game lacks in story and combat, it makes up for it with its dark and gloomy setting. There are a few different areas to explore, each with its own feel and vibe. The beginning has the train section, was the perfect intro showcasing its unique art style. Part of the train is bright, making me feel safe, while the other half is dark, dirty, and full of mannequins, making me feel unsafe even though there weren't any actual enemies to fight there. There is an infested school, a police station, underground metro area, and a city, with the latter having the more unique set pieces in my opinion. There are giant statues that loom over you, while growths of disfigured statue people cover the buildings. Most of the areas are covered in black and grayish surfaces, but when the colors are used, they are very vibrant and stick out. The music helps build into the eerie suspense you feel walking around, but lack that something to make it feel unique and stand out. Overall, the color palette use, fixed camera angle, and eerie music add to the general atmosphere and make this game feel truly creepy from beginning to end. Playing this on my Xbox Series X, I did not notice any issues with the game's performance. It is locked at 60 frames per second, and there wasn't any sections that I noticed where the frame rate dipped. The textures loaded smoothly, with no instances of popping, and I also did not experience any bugs or anything else game or immersion breaking. For the Series X version, Post Trauma gets a 5 out of 5. At its price point of $15, Red Soul Games puts out a product that earns your money. That is, if you're already a fan of survival horror games such as Silent Hill. The puzzles, atmosphere, and performance is impressive considering this is their first game. However, if you're looking for an immersive story or engaging combat, I would wait until a good sale. That's it for today's video, guys. I hope you all enjoyed. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button to make sure you don't miss out on any of my upcoming videos.